Welcome to the Divorce School. This session is about two stepmoms talking about love and blended families. My name is Martha Chen. I am the founder of the Divorce School and co-owner of divorcemagazine.com and divorcedmoms.com. I have been a stepmom for almost 20 years. When I first met my husband, Dan, he was separated and he had two children of 10 and 5 at the time. Through the last 20 years, I've learned a few things about how to be a stepmom, and we've had a very successful blended family. To this day, we are very close to our children. With me today is Diana Shepherd, who is also another stepmother. Welcome, Diana.
Hi, Martha.
Diana is going to introduce herself so that you can get some background on why it is that we're here today to talk about stepmothers.
Thanks, Martha. My name is Diana Shepherd, and I'm the editorial director and one of the co-founders of Divorce Magazine and divorcemagazine.com. It was the mid-90s when I met my soon-to-be husband, and he had 3 kids at the time who were aged 5, 6, and 7. So it was pretty clear at that point that there was going to be some time that I was going to be a stepmother. Now, my background was in publishing. In fact, I was the managing editor of Wedding Bells magazine at the time, and I just thought that there would be more resources for, if there's a magazine for how to spend one day of your life, there should be lots of books and magazines, I thought, for how to do the rest of your life. In fact, I was shocked to find that there was almost nothing out there, and the few resources that were available said remarriage is going to fail. If there are kids involved, statistically speaking, has a much higher failure rate than a first marriage, and basically you should get out now. So this was not encouraging, but it was one of the inspirations for starting Divorce Magazine, so that we could find the information that we needed to read and present it. We figured that if we needed the information, there were going to be a couple million other people who needed the same information too. So that really was the inspiration for starting the magazine in the first place back in 1996. So acknowledging that things were different then, that we didn't have the internet, we didn't have a lot of resources available to us, we were making it up as we went along. So we did make some mistakes, and then there were some things that accidentally or not we did right. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. So Martha, I thought we could start by talking about talking. What is it that somebody who is going to be marrying or being in a committed relationship with a man with children needs to discuss with him before they move in together or get married? What do you think?
Well, we must have heard a lot of advice from people saying before you get married, you should talk out several things. I think that when you marry a spouse, a person who is going to be coming with children, in my case and Diana's case, it's our future husband who is coming with children, we do need to ask extra questions. Because there is an extra layer of, I'm going to say, responsibilities and privileges, or maybe challenges that we would be facing. For me, for sure, love, compassion, patience, those are 3 guiding principles that are very, very needed in a marriage or in life in general. On top of that, I found out, did I do it intentionally, purposefully? I don't know. But I made sure that I understood what was important to my husband, my future husband, Dan. I found out what was really important to him was to be a successful daddy and a successful business person. Or career, if you will, for some of you out there. So I made a commitment to myself that those are the 2 things that I would support him with. I think that some of you out there may have different scenarios, and you may have other important elements that you want to bring into consideration when you're looking at marrying someone who has children. What about you?
Well, in fact, we didn't have a lot of the discussions that we probably should have had because we did what we knew to do at the time.
Yes,
So
I would agree. I really, these questions that I'm bringing up are probably more in hindsight that I'm recommending that you address. And same with Diana, I'm going to say that, did I ask a lot of these questions at the time? No, right?
right. In hindsight, I would say that you should work out what are going to be the expectations of you as a parent, a step parent, after you either are in the committed relationship or you get married. What are going to be your responsibilities regarding discipline, for instance?
Right.
Are you going to be very hands-off or hands-on? What are your parenting styles? If both of you bring children to the marriage, which wasn't the case with either of the two of us, but some people are going to be blending their two sets of kids together, they may have very different parenting styles. One may be a very permissive, anything goes, kids should run free and be wild, and the other one may be all about rules and homework and having responsibilities in life. So knowing what your parenting styles are and where you may be running into problems head on, I think would be something to talk about first.
Well, let's face it, even in a marriage that's not broken up, two adults, two parents could, as you're saying, have different style. Never mind that you bring in a third parent, right? In our case. So I think that for me, I'm going to say that at times I played the role of the parent who is in charge because I was left in charge. While Dan travels and his ex-wife traveled, I was left in charge. So at moments like that, you just have to be the parent. And then I find myself at times stepping back because there are issues that are raised that are too important for me to just decide on my own. And I would feel that way whether they are my biological children or not. So at times I would say, I hear what you're asking for, right? It's something that we need to discuss together with your dad. So I don't know if you ever had that thought, should I be tackling this now or should I wait?
Well, there's some things that you have to tackle because, it could be a life or death situation.
Right.
Something that you can't wait to get input from one of the other parents. Like, do I take this kid to the hospital now? That isn't something you're going to wait to
Right.
get agreement on. But other things like, how do we feel about body piercings? How do we feel about tattoos?
Which are permanent.
Which, are permanent, yes. At what age can the child make up their own mind about things like that?
Right.
What about dropping out of school? At what age are we all in agreement that can happen? So there are things that you can't possibly predict everything because it's just
Right.
not possible.
It's like normal parenting.
Exactly. But some things, you can see coming. And one of the other things that I would say is important is after you've had, hopefully, these discussions about responsibilities and discipline and some parenting style things, that there needs to be, and this would be true, as you said, even if it weren't a blended family or a step family, there needs to be, need to know that your co-parent is going to back you up.
Right.
So you have had an agreement that the kid cannot drop out of school at 16 years old.
Right.
So husband is traveling, kid says, I'm dropping out of school. So you have to be the parent at that moment and say no.
Reinforce.
Right. And then when dad comes home, he has got to back you up.
Right.
And say that. Now, if he doesn't agree with something that you've said, I think it's still, especially when the kids are young, not something to do in front of the kids.
Right.
So take a time out, go to the bedroom, have a quiet conversation about it, and then come back at it again. Because if the kids see you arguing, for one thing, it's going to bring up all of the stresses probably of what happened when their parents divorced. Mommy and daddy are fighting. Oh no. And also, it's going to encourage them to play the mummy and daddy game.
Right.
Like if mummy says no, then we're going to daddy. And if daddy says no, let's go to stepmom.
Right.
So there does need to be a on the same page, united front in front of the kids about everything that matters. And maybe on the subject of everything that matters, choose your battles. Choose what hill you're going to die on. They cannot all be that thing that you're going to fight to the death over. So figure out what are your non-negotiables, have a discussion about it, and then everything else, don't sweat it.
I'm going to say that in our relationship, I knew from day one I'm marrying someone who has an ex and 2 children. So I'm walking in with my eyes wide open. I knew that those are the things that I'm going to be dealing with. I have one piece of advice for someone who's out there who are maybe dating a divorced dad or maybe thinking of getting married. I have seen a few friends of mine who would complain to me about how they have to share their husband with these other people, as in the children, or sometimes the ex, because the husband has to get on the phone and talk to the ex, make arrangements, right? Sure, if you married someone who were never married before, didn't have children, you don't have any of those. But you knew you were marrying someone with children. So don't act surprised or get jealous about the time that you have to share your husband with all these other people, because you have to play the adult. You knew all this before you walked into it. So it might sound a little harsh, but for the sake of the family, which you are bringing into your life, you need to be prepared to do that.
Well, and sometimes, especially in the early days, you can be newlyweds from Monday to Wednesday, and then suddenly you're a mom from Thursday and Friday. So sometimes those transitions are hard on the parents, not just on the children as well. So addressing what you were talking about with your friends being upset about having to share their husband, one of the things that you can do, and again, this might be part of the conversation that you have earlier, is you set up a date night.
Right.
And so you make sure, and again, I don't think this is necessarily just stepfamily advice. I think this is marriage advice. You set up a date night that you are going to have to celebrate why you married this person in the first place, to have some adult time together that is not about running someone over to soccer practice while the other one is going to music lessons, and reaffirm your love for each other. Mm-hmm. I think that is really important, and it's something that can certainly get lost in a marriage or in a stepfamily situation.
Yeah, you actually remind me of a funny situation, because my husband plays hockey, the 2 kids plays hockey, so practically, actually my husband was on 2 leagues. Let's say it was Tuesday and Thursday, and the kids was Wednesday and Friday. So practically every evening there is hockey equipment hanging out in the in a house somewhere, waiting to be air dried, right? And I'm not a hockey person. I'm a female, so I just have to learn to accept that, right? That there will be hockey equipment, maybe even stinky hockey equipment every night at the house. But I knew that that's what's going to happen. And can someone who's marrying into another person, someone marrying another person, can you predict everything? Can you talk about everything? No, you can't. And that's when commitment comes in. If you're committed to making it work, you're committed to having, in my case, my husband be a successful father, successful with his business, then anything that shows up, we just have to work it out, deal with it.
Let's talk for a minute about the importance of having a relationship with your husband's ex.
Okay.
Now, when there are no children involved, normally you would not be having a relationship with your husband's ex. In fact,
hopefully
it would be pretty weird if you were. But in this case, You have to. I think that it's one of the crucial things that accidentally I got right, was to befriend my husband's ex-wife. I could see that they had some difficulties in their communication. They would wind each other up. You know the best way to push the buttons of your spouse, and this doesn't end with divorce. So I realized that in order to have less stress in my life, I needed them to have less stress in their life too. And how can you do that?
Yeah.
Well, by being generous, by killing her with kindness. So if she wants to trade weekends with the kids because she's got something to do and you're fine with it, do it.
Right.
Absolutely. Anytime that you can be generous, be generous. Hopefully it's going to come back in your direction. What do you think?
Well, I must say I had it easy, if you will. We have very good relationship. My husband made sure that he has a good divorce. The three of us, my husband's ex, we are actually friends to this day. Are we friends that we call each other up and tell each other secrets and chit chat? No. But we go to each other's parties, birthday parties, open house parties. So though that level of friendship is there, and it has been improving over time, if you will. At the beginning, I think that there was always an alignment that we are going to have a good blended family, and that everything we do would be in the best interest of the children. And if we made a mistake, we never question each other's intention. Everybody makes mistakes. Even biological parents make mistakes. So you just take steps to correct them, put things back to the best way that we know how. So I must say that I have been fairly lucky in that there hasn't really been too many scenarios where I can really recall to say that, wow, she made a big stink out of nothing, or that he got really upset over something. Upsets, they come and go, nothing serious as far as my experience goes. So I have to say, the groundwork has been done prior to us getting together, because all three of us have done a lot of self-development work. And I say to everybody, do those work now. You could benefit from it as a single person, as a married couple, or as a stepmom or a divorced couple, because that the self-development work that we have done allows us to look at the situation with some kind of a objective manner and look for the good in what might be a bad situation. And when you can think that way and act accordingly, a lot of disputes wouldn't even happen or could be resolved quite quickly.
Well, I think that is really important, the personal development, whether it's through courses or book reading or doing therapy, however it's going to be, and it's a lifelong process. But I can also hear the eyes rolling out there with some of our viewers who are saying, yes, but my husband's ex-wife is crazy. She's a lunatic. She's always doing terrible things, and she uses the kids like footballs, punting them back and forth and whatever. So would your advice be different? Well, for my part, I would say no, unless she is actually clinically, like has a clinical diagnosis of some personality disorder whereby you're not going to be able to treat her as though she's normal. I think using some empathy and some compassion, some looking for where might that attack be coming from? Is there an insecurity? Are you pushing her buttons? And there might be a little bit of fake it till you make it, acting as though actually has you change how you're being with her, which will change how she's being with you.
Right. And at times, I would say that we could influence how they react and interact with us through how we interact with them, right? For example, if someone makes an unreasonable demand of you and you don't just take it and accept it and you actually sit down and have a conversation about it, then you wouldn't be teaching someone to say, hey, you know what, I can just keep pushing the boundary. I can keep asking for this and that whenever it's convenient to me. I think that there's a lot to be learned about relationship, the skills that we can have, that we could apply when the situation is tense or when the situation is good. Because when it's tense, you want to relax it a little bit. And when it's going well, you want to develop it further. So it's never, and there's no end to it. As I said, I've been a stepmother for 20 years. I expect to be a stepmother for another 20 years, right? So who knows what the development is going to take us to the next step.
Well, I want to bring something else up now. They say it takes a village to raise a child. This can actually be a benefit to if you have a good, involved, compassionate, interested stepmother. She can have a different viewpoint than what you do as a biological parent.
Very true.
Because you're not seeing through that filter of, oh, you know, when Johnny was 10, he was so sweet and I carried him under my heart for 9 months. And you can just look at a situation and see objectively what is happening here without those filters. And that might free you up to make a better parenting choice at the time. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Along the same lines of thinking, maybe he was a bad kid when he was younger. He'd do all kinds of things. But now we have to look at the child and interact with him as he is today. We cannot carry the history of the child to the degree that it stops us from seeing what possibilities there might be with this child. I remember you asked me, well, by the way, Diana and I have been friends for at least 20 years now, right? We exchange questions, we exchange ideas, say, hey, what do you think I should do at this point? It is important to have someone that you could bounce off your questions and ideas with, but make sure that person is up to the same thing as you are, meaning up to the same commitment of having a successful blended family and not out to what might some situation be a better parent than the ex, because that's just not in our conversation. We're not out to be a better person than a better parent than any of the other two that are present in the children's life. We just want to be the best parent that we can be and work with the other two parents so that there is some consistency in the message that we deliver to the children and some consistency in the way that we parent them.
Right. And if you're a stepmother who didn't have biological children, and frankly, even if you did, you're still making it up as you go along,
right?
Right. For better, for worse. Sometimes you can find a parent who you admire. Maybe one of your girlfriends is so great with her kids, and her kids are so great, and you can get some tips and coaching from them. It doesn't only have to be from other stepmothers. But on the other hand, a stepmother is going to understand where you're at any given time, possibly better than someone who hasn't gone through that process.
So Diana, I want to thank you for joining me in the last half hour and sharing some of your insights about how to be a great stepmoms and to have a successful blended family. Thank you.
Martha, it has been my pleasure to be here with you today talking about the hardest job you'll ever love, being a stepmother. If you found this session interesting and informative, I hope you'll leave us a comment. If there's something that you'd like to know more about, I hope you'll leave us a comment about that too. You may also have noticed that there's 3 sessions showing at the bottom of your screen right now. If you click on one of them, you can go into your next class right away. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.